So we are back with another video. It's been a while. Took some time off.
I took some time off to rest.
But we are back. This is something that I've been seeing a lot on social media, as I'm sure you're all aware and can probably tell from the title of this video. Harry Potter.
Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out.
Hi everyone, I'm SerenaTheJournalist, and we've got a great, interesting video for you today. Harry Potter, the series that took the world's heart, and still does, evidently. Harry Potter was so big for British culture. When you think Britain, what do you think? The royal family? EastEnders? James Bond? Harry Potter is definitely the first 8 people on your list that you think about when you think about Britain. It was crazy. It made J.K. Rowling the first woman author to become a billionaire. Not a millionaire, billionaire. Billionaire. For those who don't know about Harry Potter, I'm sure we all do, but if someone hasn't heard of Harry Potter is basically a series about an orphan boy who learns he's a wizard and is destined for more than just his life in a cupboard. He goes to wizarding schools such as Hogwarts, where he makes loyal friends and also dangerous enemies. He uncovers dark secrets about himself and is up against a fallen dark wizard called Voldemort, who regains power. And each year, Harry faces new trials that test his courage, his heart, his faith. He has to sacrifice love, and a lot of stuff happens. But in the end, spoiler alert, good wins. Harry Potter was crazy. At its peak, you just had to be there. The premiere, the final Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows World premiere was crazy. They literally had to cut off places of the street in London because fans were everywhere. It was mad. Now in this video, I will be discussing the recent casting series that has more main diverse characters than the original movies, which only had a few people. To be honest, I don't really know why they're doing a series, because as big as the Harry Potter franchise is, its peak has ended. It ended at the final movie of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm sorry, I don't really know who needs to hear this, but the peak is over. I know some people still live for Harry Potter, and me too sometimes, but I also know that the peak and the hype of Harry Potter is over. Now, before anyone tries to come at me, guys, please, I am a Harry Potter fan. I am a Potterhead. Like, I've been to Potter World.
I've had the butter beer, I've walked down the aisle in Hogwarts Great Hall, I've been to Diagon Alley, I've rode a broom.
At one point, I thought Hogwarts was real. But as much as I love Harry Potter, it's over, guys. Please. And to be honest, if you know about Harry Potter, there's always been controversy around how diverse the Harry Potter books were. To be honest, actually, there weren't many ethnic minority people in the books. We did have Dean, Lee, Alicia, Blaze, and Kingsley, who were all black, and there were the Patel twins, who were Indian, and then Cho, who was kind of Asian. To me, she seems like she's from Southern East Asia or East Asia. I don't know, that's kind of all we know about Cho. The books were published in the 1990s at a time where a lack of diversity was never expected and no one really cared about there being no diversity. The 1991 census was the first UK census to question an ethnic group. The UK census was 94.65% of people reported themselves as being white British or white Irish or white other. And 5.35% of people in this time reported themselves as coming from an ethnic minority group. And I do understand that. At the time when J.K. Rowling, the author, wrote Harry Potter, the UK wasn't really a diverse place. I get that. And so I do understand that Hogwarts, and the fact that I'm discussing Hogwarts like it's a real place is crazy. But anyway, Hogwarts is an English wizard school, and I'm sure that if the book was based in South America, for instance, then there would be probably a lack of white people in it. Hear me out, guys. Hear me out. I don't think Harry Potter is directed at adults. I'm pretty sure Harry Potter is a children's book. And before anyone tries to come for me and is like,
I'm an adult and I love Harry Potter.
You love it because you grew up on it, okay? You love Harry Potter because you grew up on Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling didn't intend for her readers to be adults when she was writing the books. Of course, the franchise is so great that a lot of adults started buying the books, which is why you will see many different covers for the different Harry Potter books so that it could appeal to the older audience. Even though I love Harry Potter, I don't know where my Harry Potter merch is though.
I haven't seen Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in the West End. I haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts films. I haven't been on the Warner Brothers Studios tour recently or visited Platform 93 Quarters recently. I haven't been to King's Cross recently. And if I do go to King's Cross, I am not fangirling. I haven't eaten a chocolate egg recently. I haven't had butterbeer recently.
And I say all this, even though I went to Harry Potter World when I was like 12. I have grown out of Harry Potter, and I think many of us should, for good reasons, which I will explain. Because just as Miriam Marigolds, who played Professor Sprout in the films, said, she tends to lean towards the view that Harry Potter was wonderful for kids, but that grown adults should be content to remember fondly, rather than trying to relive the magic.
I worry about Harry Potter fans because they should be over that by now. You know, I mean, it was 25 years ago, and it's for children. I think it's for children. It's over.
I'm just the messenger, guys. I am just the messenger, please. I want to talk about the casting of the recent Harry Potter series. The casting has upset many adult Harry Potter fans, and in particular, I'm going to be talking about the likes of the character of Severus Snape, who was played by the late, great Alan Rickman. He will now be played by Papa Esidu, who is a Black British man with a Ghanaian heritage. When this came out, most people on X, Twitter, whatever, were mad. Adults were mad. And I know it was adults because I highly doubt a 12-year-old will have Twitter. Like, I get they probably have TikTok or Instagram, but Twitter, I don't think a 12-year-old would have Twitter. And if you don't know about Esidu, he is a British actor who has earned acclaim for a lot of his performances, such as Gangs in London, I May Destroy You, and The Lazarus Project. Obviously, as we can all see, Esidu is black, which has obviously caused some controversy around Harry Potter audiences. But I want to say that the colour of Snape's skin, in the grand scheme of things, actually isn't important to the role of Harry Potter, and it doesn't impact his appearance or character. When I saw the new cast, which has John Lithgow as head teacher Albus Dumbledore, Janet McTeer as Minerva McGonagall, and Nick Frost, who would take on the lovely, beloved role of Rubeus Hagrid, Esidu clearly stood out to me. I was literally thinking, wow, we have a main black character. Kind of main character. And black main characters are scarcely and very rarely represented in TV shows and movies. So this was definitely, I feel like, a bold moment as a fan of the series. I mean, to say I was surprised was kind of an understatement. I definitely knew that this spin-off cast would have more diverse characters than the initial cast, which, as I mentioned before, wasn't diverse because naturally, of the time of J.K. Rowling writing the books in the 1990s, Britain wasn't as diverse as it is now. And TV shows and Hollywood and the media wasn't diverse as it is now. And that is not me saying that I now think everything is diverse and everything's amazing and everyone has equal opportunities no matter where they come from. No, like black and brown people still do not have the same opportunities as their white counterparts. And I know that a lot more needs to be done. It's not perfect, but it has progressed since the 90s. And that's what I'm going to say about that particular issue. It's still not a normal formality to see black characters take up spaces that were traditionally made for white actors, but it is slowly becoming more common with the likes of actors such as Nkuti Gatwa playing Doctor Who and Francesca Rivers, who played Juliet in the theatre adaptation of Romeo and Juliet recently, despite all the flack she got, which was really disappointing. I think for Harry Potter to match this, they would have to have diversified some main character. Not a smaller character where this character's only in one every 50 scenes or one every 100 scenes, but a recurring character. I literally remember when the advert came on that they were casting people and there was a diversity claim on it which said that they welcomed every actor from every background to audition for their roles. And to me, this was a clear indication that the students of Hogwarts and how the teachers of Hogwarts would look would be completely different from the books and the original movies. And I feel like many Harry Potter fans who are annoyed have been trying to claim that their outrage isn't about race and how Isidore doesn't match the physical description of the books. Severus Snape in the first book, Harry and the Philosopher's Stone, is described as a thin man with sallow skin, a large hooked nose, and greasy shoulder-length black hair, often wearing long black robes that make him appear like an overgrown bat. In terms of clothing, Snape usually wears a long black coat. That makes him look like a bat. His dark hair and dark clothes clearly tell the readers and audience that he is not a regular happy-go-lucky Hogwarts professor, but clearly probably an enemy to look out for. At the very least, he is a character who is mysterious and has this sort of darkness around him, and Alan Rickman, who portrayed Snape in 8 movies, fit the looks that the book described him to be. But to me, in reality, what made Rickman such a good Snape was the personality that he brought to the role. For instance, he had a low voice in the movies, which was quite staple to know that Snape was talking. And in a lot of the scenes, it raised the tension for him and made him seem quite scary sometimes. Alan Rickman did give Snape a flair for the dramatic scenes that we did see of him, with his coat flying around and sometimes just the way he looked at Harry. He really hated that boy despite loving his mum. I believe that the key to a good Snape performance is personality, and if Isidore can embody this character, then I believe he will be successful. In this way, Snape's race shouldn't be up for a debate in the series because it's Isidore's performance that really counts. But people are going to say stuff and people are going to hate, and one person did write, Snape's backstory does not work with a black character. Even a mixed race character would strain cruelly based on numerous factors, including the fact that his mother also had an English and or European last name. We don't know much about the Prince family, but she's specifically described as having pale skin. I realise this might be too in the weeds for casual fans, but it's relevant. It means the show writers will either have to rewrite Snape's entire background or pretend like it doesn't exist. Both of those are unacceptable, given that his background is a fundamental part of who he is. It's why he suffers from the prejudice of classism, which was a huge issue in the UK and is reflected in magical society. You cannot represent that classism or the character accurately through the bullying/rejection of a black character. Race would dominate the narrative. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a very good argument. But this is such a complex topic because Snape's backstory is indeed linked with the class and blood status prejudice in the wizarding world, which does have some parallels to real UK social structures. Change in his race could require rewriting significant parts of that context. But Snape's defining traits are his complexity, loyalty, internal conflict, and experiences with prejudice and classism. These themes can exist regardless of the actor's race. A black actor can fully embody these struggles and emotions without changing Snape's fundamental identity. Casting a black actor as Snape offers valuable representation can broaden audience connection. It challenges the outdated notion that certain characters must be white to be authentic. Diversity can bring fresh perspectives without erasing the character's core story. And I actually think that race and class prejudice can coexist and deepen the narrative instead of diluting the original themes. Adding racial identity can add layers to Snape's experiences with bullying and social rejection. This intersectionality makes the story richer and more realistic to diverse audiences. Like, the wizarding world is magical and diverse, and the specifics of Snape's family background are not exhaustively detailed in the books. There is room for imagination, including a black Snape whose backstory fits within the magical universe. Sorry to whoever wrote that post. Sorry. Yes, all of J.K. Rowling's main characters were described as white people. I loved the franchise so much as a child that the lack of black characters at the time didn't bother me as much. As I grew older, it became unfortunate when I realised how much diversity there really was in some of my favourite TV shows and movies. For instance, I didn't realise that Lavender Brown, Ronald Weasley's ex-girlfriend, was portrayed by a black girl in the earlier films. But when she became a central character in the 6th movie, she was recast as white. Her race wasn't important to the plot and no one else seemed to care. And that decision to me is a mystery. And to me, no one defended the idea to this day to cast a white girl as Lavender Brown in the future movies. There was no reasoning. We just had a black girl, a white one, and we just like, okay, cool. No one cared. Which is my point. These characters' races aren't central to the story. It is their personalities, whether they are funny, vile, caring, mean. It's these little things of their personality that makes them memorable. And sure, I know that no one will ever completely live up to the actors who embodied the iconic roles for a decade. But that shouldn't fall on Essie's shoulders, for example. I will admit that J.K. Rowling likes to pretend that she didn't write Hermione as white, but she did. But honestly, she said that to defend Noma, who played Hermione in the theatre play of Harry Potter, which I think was noble. And need I remind everyone that Harry Potter world is based in England, but is a fictional world. A fictional world with ogres and dwarves and dragons, and people are complaining that it won't be authentic because we have a black Snape. Why? Like, if you can watch a film with ogres and dwarves, why is it hard to watch a film where there's a black Snape? Having a black Snape does not take away from the magic of the franchise. By the cast being racially explorative, it helps young and old audiences reimagine what our cultural icons, I think, should look like. Reputation is important, but we also need to separate canon from whiteness and decolonize society's sense of who children should watch and look up to. We see this all the time when black actors are cast in roles that are meant for white actors, such as Hailey Bailey, who starred as Ariel. But these shows are shows where kids don't really care that much. I believe they're still going to go to the cinema and watch the films. It's the adults, I think, who should embrace more of the change. And if you feel convicted and if you feel like I'm talking to you, maybe I am talking to you. I know someone in the comment section is going to be like,
when a white actor plays a role for a black actor, everyone gets upset.
Yes, everyone does get upset because black actors do not get half the opportunities that their white counterparts get. Because in almost most high-grossing movies, the black actors are either a side character or get killed off, or a best friend. It's very rare that we see black actors in a lead in a movie or a series that is mainstream. Very rare. It still happens, but very rare. Please understand what I'm saying. And for a mainstream and wide audience, if you think about all the actors, all the great actors that there are, how many in your list would be black? And this is not a tit for tat type of thing. I think there's enough room in the industry for everyone. And I do think that there are more aspiring actors from different backgrounds who should be allowed to play roles that historically would not have been available for them. Look at Elizabeth Taylor, who played Cleopatra, when Cleopatra is clearly a black woman, and that's considered one of the best films of all time. There's been many times when white actors have played roles that a black actor should have played, or roles where it should have been a dark-skinned actress, but they got a light-skinned actress instead. There are many times that this happens. Viola Davis and Tom Hanks actually touched on diversity in one of those actor-on-actor interviews.
So you're fighting in order to get some degree of diversity. Television is almost a bonanza when it comes down to diversity.
Absolutely, because
people
you
of
have
color,
400
both
shows.
genders, it's crazy. There's this multiple choice and it goes on and on, which is fantastic. But the economics of a movie coming along, a movie that has to play in China or has to play overseas,
Absolutely.
simply in order to make its investment back, it ends up being one of those barriers.
I think it's interesting when Viola mentioned that it's easier to have people of color in TV shows and series compared to mainstream movies because it has to appeal to the whole world. It has to make numbers in countries in Asia, for example. It has to have a global audience. And in a sense, trying to explain the reason behind certain casting calls. And it's interesting because we look at shows like Bridgerton, which is loved everywhere and has won Emmy Awards and have had spin-off shows despite it having lead black characters. Many people love Bridgerton for its diversity. People of backgrounds can see themselves represented on the screen. And it's a show where people of different races just mingle seamlessly together with each other. Bridgerton was so successful that in its first 28 days, it was watched by 82 million member households and had the biggest ever debut for an original series on a streaming surface. But then we compare it to the backlash that The Little Mermaid received when it was revealed that Hailey Bailey would star as playing Ariel. The backlash reached countries like China and South Korea because Chinese audiences were unhappy, as the image of the mermaid princess in Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales has long been rooted in their hearts, and it takes a leap of imagination to accept the new cast. When the film was released in China, the movie grossed $3.6 million in its first 10 days, which seems a lot, but was actually one of the worst showing among Disney's live action adaptations. The Jungle Book, which came out in 2016, and The Lion King, which came out in 2019, were hits in China, earning £150 million and £120 million, respectively. While even Aladdin in 2019 took in $53.5 million. And Cruella, which, even though it was released during the pandemic, still earned $24 million. So way more than The Little Mermaid did. And I do emphasize and I do understand how it's hard to get new characters into your mind. After all, this is a story that we already know inside out. And I think this is because we already had the Hermione that we loved. We already had, as I mentioned earlier, the peak of Harry Potter. The books have sold, over 60 million copies worldwide, and the film franchise is the fourth highest grossing film in history. So we already lived it. The HBO series is expected to debut in 2026, which is almost 30 years after the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and will apparently run for 10 consecutive years, which to me is crazy. 10 years is a long time. Harry Potter and the franchise is very distinctive in all of our minds. When you think Harry Potter, you think Daniel Radcliffe. When you think Lord Voldemort, you think Ralph Fiennes. When you think Hermione Granger, you think Emma Watson. When you think about Ron Weasley, you think about Rupert Grint, and etc, etc, etc. We already have staple people for these characters, and I truly believe that no matter who plays these iconic roles, they will never live up to the original ones that we fell in love with over a decade ago. With 28 years after the first book was published, and with a much more diverse audience, studios like HBO are finally recognizing what was once ignored. As I mentioned before, I don't think HBO were trying to reconnect with Harry Potter lovers who are now in their 30s and 40s. I think they're just trying to make a new version of the series for kids who are possibly in secondary and primary school to love it in their own way, and that should be okay. But to be honest, we know that HBO, not that I'm defaming anyone, please, can change things when it comes to series that are based on books. Just take the Game of Thrones, for example, based on the books by George R.R. Martin. This was a much-loved series until the end of the series, when they had fallen off track with the books. Everyone hated it. So if we've already seen how HBO treats some of its series, why would we think that Harry Potter would be any different? So in many ways, the reboot will never actually live up to what we already know and love. I'm not mad that we have a black Severus Snape, and it's not because I'm black. It is not because I am black, before any of you say that in the comments. It's because, as I mentioned earlier on, I had my Harry Potter experience. I had my Harry Potter marathon and my peak shows. I went to Harry Potter World. I did all that stuff. I'm still a diehard Potterhead. I still follow Emma Watson on Instagram, and of course, when she posts about Harry Potter, I am fangirling and squealing and start to watch Harry Potter clips on YouTube. But that is about as far as it goes. Sorry, that is about as far as it goes. And similarly, I do feel like many Harry Potter stars have left their roles in the past. And respectfully, I don't think anyone could possibly love the franchise as much as J.K. Rowling did, who created the whole thing. And if she finds the cast acceptable and good enough for them to take on the responsibility of her beloved characters, who is anyone else to tell her otherwise? Who are we to tell the directors who to cast? If the woman who created the whole thing and is an executive producer decided that this cast was good enough, then it's good enough. If it's good enough for J.K. Rowling, it kind of should be good enough for us. And while we're speaking about J.K. Rowling, if you're going to boycott the show because of Snape, you should boycott it for another reason. Harry Potter now has been forever entangled with J.K. Rowling's transphobic views. What first began as an apparently accidental liking of a tweet back in 2018 spiraled into a full-on persecution of the trans community under the disguise of trying to be progressive. Now, of course, not everyone who enjoys Harry Potter will align themselves with Rowling's beliefs, but the author's stance on the trans community has been so toxic that even the likes of Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson has decided to kind of separate themselves from her, as well as denouncing her views. HBO chairman and the CEO Casey Bloss has claimed that the new show is not respective of them either, despite Rowling playing an active part as being an executive producer. And so if you're going to boycott, then boycott for this. J.K. Rowling was recently a donor to For Women Scotland, whose challenge is to the definition of gender under the Equality Act, which has led to a further decision by the UK Supreme Court to exclude trans women from its protection. Her latest organisation was announced, the J.K. Rowling Women's Fund, a legal fighting fund for women protecting their sex-based rights. So in practice, this means that J.K. Rowling is basically using the money that we're paying her for legal battles brought about gender-critical individuals and organisations from the wealth that we have given her over the years. So if there's any reason not to give this author any more money, any more of your coin, any more of your time, this would be a reason to be it, not because we have a black Snape. Saying that, I don't think the casting will change who is actually going to watch the show. If you're going to watch the show, you are going to always watch the show, whether you hate the casting or you like it. Will I watch it? Probably not. I never intended to watch it. I'll probably just watch the clips that I see on social media and be satisfied with it. But I do think I have rambled on long enough. What do you think about the Snape casting being a black actor? Comment below, and please, let's just be respectful in the comments. I will disable or delete or do whatever I have to do if I see some that just are unnecessary. But thank you for watching my video again. I am SerenaTheJournalist. I will hopefully be back with another video soon. Let me know what you think. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys soon.